Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Depends on where you are joining in from. Welcome again to another session of Masters of Conversion series, where you get to learn from the masterminds of winning website experiences. As you can see, with me today, we have Dragos Pop, who is a conversion analyst at Festo. Of course, I'll give him time to speak a bit about himself and Festo. But yeah, about me, my name is Vipul. Maybe some of you must have seen me already. But my name is Vipul, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at VWO, a full funnel experimentation platform for fast-growing businesses. So today's session, Dragos will be talking about how to convince or how to get buy-in from the top leadership for CRO, and he'll walk you through a couple of his. He'll walk you through his thoughts first, and then we'll have a question and answer session wherein I have prepared a few questions for Dragos, and we'll ask him, and of course we'll need your participation as well. If you have any question for Dragos, just let us know. Is there a problem with my audio?
I hear you fine.
No, we can hear.
Okay. So if you have any question, just feel free to raise your hand or send in your questions using the questions panel. I'll be very, very happy to unmute you so that you can ask your questions directly to Dragos and provide some more context around your questions. With that, Drago, I think we can begin.
Thank you very much, Vipul. Hi, everyone. Yeah, as Vipul said, I'm Dragos. I work at Festo. A bit about myself. I started as a salesman and slowly ended up into this world of CRO. Basically, the journey started when I actually landed at a SaaS company who was actually selling A/B testing and personalization solutions, and then I got a bug, and all the roads ended up in CRO in the end. So I have experience within the SaaS industry. I used to work in a top world agency as well, working with multiple clients and basically all the niches possible out there, from e-commerce to lead generation, to B2C to B2B to B2C to B2, whatever you name it. So now I am at Festo. Festo handles industry automation, is the world leader in this, with over 35% of the market at this point, and they do have a huge rollout in e-commerce at this point. And I work in the global team, so we're trying to cover all the areas of different continents and different clusters with smaller countries in them. So yeah, that's a bit about me. So I think shall we just go ahead and start the presentation, Vipul? Right? Okay. So today I'm going to talk about just the basics on when to start the CRO, on how to start the CRO program, just what to check, what to be aware of, a few easy steps that are very, very important. So some sort of a health check, and here I'm going to talk about this as well. So I think we can begin. Let me start this session. Is everybody seeing my screen correctly? Hopefully.
Yes.
All right, cool. Then, yeah, the first and the most important thing is that when you want to start a CRO program, you have to check under the hood. So basically, what is very important at this point is to make sure that you have all of your metrics that relate to the business KPIs in order and in place, and you tested them and you check them over and over, so you make sure that everything works fine. And also tracking is very important to make sure that you're getting the correct data, because there's nothing worse than finding out after 6 months that you've been reporting on the right data. So yeah, that is the most important first step, is to check the metrics check the tracking, and you know that your source of truth is actually on point. And then another big important thing is the tools that you have in hand to be able to develop a program. So it's an analytics tool that you know that works fine, and you don't have issues with it, or exporting the data and so on and so forth. Then a session capture tool that you might need with session recording, surveys, heat maps, anything like that. It's very important to have it in the beginning. Set it up so you start recording data since the get-go, and because you will use it either way. So the earlier you do it, the better. And then make sure you have a service or a software that can help you with usability testing or any crowd testing research that you might need in the future. And of course, a very important thing, a testing tool, because A/B testing is going to be one of your most important things that you have to do to validate all the research that you find. So yeah, should be aware of that as well. And then I think you are pretty much good to start slowly your engines, so you can go ahead and start working on the CRO program. The next step, I think, which is very important, is to map out all of your funnels, all the journeys that are possible that you might have, and then start to cluster them and to see which are the funnels that are most used, at least, and give you the quickest way to your business objectives. So when you do that, just make sure that you have focus on every possible funnel. So just make sure you don't ignore any funnel. Even if you have only 10% of the people going through that funnel, make sure you map it out, make sure everything is working, because that might increase, and you will have historical data, and that is very important as well. So yeah, mapping out everything you have is an important step, and then only then you can go a bit more in depth, so you can focus on like smaller areas, and then you can have a higher impact. So mapping it out and then focus on your effort means basically you know where to start, which I think it's a very important thing, because a lot of people are saying, well, if it's a normal website, I've heard this a lot in my past experiences, people saying, well, we start with the homepage. So as an example, homepage a lot of times is not a landing page, because most of your ads are going to send in a classical e-commerce, let's say, to the product page or to a category page, but less people in the homepage. So this is one of the misconceptions, that okay, let's start with the beginning, which in a collective mindset sometimes is a homepage, which might not have enough traffic and not being in your funnel too often. So I think a good way is just to start seeing the pages that have maybe the highest traffic cost, a lower conversion rate, because that would mean that this would have a very high probability of increasing a conversion, or you can push traffic further down the funnel into closer to conversion. Very important on this one is once you have this, you have to see how you can align with your business KPIs, and I think that one is very important, and to the objectives of the business. Once you have that, you can start going to. Yes.
Yep, I actually have a point there, because the most important thing about business KPI, right? So it's not research. Even before research, the step 0 is basically listing down the KPIs, right?
Yes,
like,
of course.
where does the business want to go, right? What improvement does it want to see, and then starting the research process. So always we start from step 1, that is research, but there's a step 0, which is the company's objective. So yeah, that's a great point that, business KPIs is something that you need to consider, and something that you need to consider at the very, very beginning of the
Yeah,
entire
that's
process.
that's the given, right? Because whenever a marketing team, CRO team, SEO team, whatever it is, they have that's the first discussion, right? What's your We have this business KPIs, this you have to do until the end of the year or the end of the quarter or whatever. So yeah, collective mindset. I think this is on the top of the list, as you said. Yeah, it's a given. Just make sure that they're always, it's like your Bible. Make sure that it's always within your plans, and all of your efforts. You start with that. Thank you for that. Then, yes, as I was saying, painting a picture, when you focus your efforts and everything is pretty much aligned, you can start painting a picture to your top management. So then you can say, all right, okay, this is the conversion rate we have at the middle of the funnel. If we make these, we have this following hypothesis, like out of all our data that we have, and the research that we collected until now. If we make certain changes here, and we can increase the traffic, I don't know, from product page to basket, for example, or to a form, and so on and so forth, we can actually increase the conversion rate by a ripple effect, right? So if you push from product page to basket, you will see actually a change further down the checkout into the actual conversion. So I think this is very important, because a very small change in the beginning can result in a huge uplift in your bottom line towards the end of the funnel. So I think this is very important. Of course, this is show me the money. It can be something that everybody can easily relate to. Follow the money is the easiest thing that you can do. But of course, if the business KPI showed different things in different quarters, you can do the same thing with that as well, and it can align. But the bottom line, either way, is going to be affected in the end, and usually is based on revenue. So yeah, I think that's a very important thing to consider. Cool. Once you get some traction, and some people accept that you should start doing, just make sure that when you have your areas of focus, you score them, and you're sure that the least amount of effort can give you, and the highest amount of research, the highest amount of data. If you find a balance in between that, you can start doing some tests or some actions on the website really fast, and you will have the highest return. So low hanging fruits, make sure you grab that fruit, so because this will enhance a bit of trust in your program from the get-go. So make sure you win the first races. It's about learning, it's about the process, but it will help you a lot if you're going to concentrate on those areas that have the highest potential in there. So again, research is very important. Make sure you score the data sources that you get, and your hypothesis, so you know you're starting in the right place, and you will get the highest return possible in that. And I think once you're winning your first races, I think it's very important to start showing off and make people curious. So even with your first races, or you can go and find some like start collecting assumptions from people, because a lot of people have their own ideas, their own hypothesis, and their own opinions. We have opinions like everywhere, everybody has an opinion. So you can go and start asking people what they think about certain features of the website, every certain pages, certain products. This works better for you, or this works better for you. This product page, do you think is better than the other, and so on and so forth. And then try and find some data to see if this matches their opinions, and if not, start making them curious and start showing them like, look, I thought this, you know, we had a discussion, we thought this is gonna be good, we actually checked the data, and it's not on like how we thought. So we can start pushing this into a very data-driven decision making process from now on. So I think this helps. And then first races, when you won, you start evangelizing them through the company. Maybe do some small games, like, you know, do you think, if it's a test, for example, do you think it's A, do you think it's B, do you think it's C? People might not choose the one that actually won, and they're going to be a bit surprised. So I think this works often in different companies, and when people are curious, they will come to you and ask different questions, and if you answer them with data, they might be surprised, and they're going to come back for more. So I think this is a very important thing as well. And when you get more people curious and you have your first races, one, I think, is very important to talk to the team and to everybody who is involved, and give them credit. Make sure that you have them in the meetings or the calls when you explain your first wins and your first results, which are positive, and give credit to them and empower them to start working more and more, and to be more close to the CRO program. For example, when you have a company which has also offline sales, for example, and you have like teams of salesmen, and then you have you know, the developers, the designer, the insights people. People sometimes don't think of themselves like contributing to the business in such a meaningful way, direct way, because they know they're helping, but they don't see it like from a sale, right? I had a call, I had a meeting, I made the sale, boom, money in the bank, right? But a developer and a designer who participates in building a test may have the exact same impact, or even higher, right? Because if you have like a quick 1% increase in conversion, that might be a few good sales in there. So giving them credit and empowering them, I think, is very, very important. And yeah, you should do it.
Right. And specifically, I'm thinking about companies wherein the buying cycle is longer, right?
Exactly.
It might take several months before you close the deal. So let's say it takes 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. But the first step which caused the lead to enter the system must have been through a test or an experiment that must have been running at the website at that time, right? So by the time this deal is closed, the this attribution, this encouragement, this credit factor is lost somewhere. So nobody goes back to the designer and said, hey, you made you ran a test 4 months ago, we got a lead, and now we've closed it for several $1 million or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's also something to consider.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then, of course, one without the other is not going to work, right? In this example that you gave, it's basically teamwork, and it's a very important attribution that has to be given to the dev, the designer, the insights people, the analytics teams, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think this is the quick run through. What I wanted to say is just make sure that you do your research. This is the last slide of the presentation. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you focus your efforts, and then start painting a picture on how it would look like when you start winning some races, some tests, some actions, some programs that you're going to do, and keep in mind the business KPIs, because that's gonna get you far away with top management.
Right. So thank you so much for imparting that knowledge, because my observation has been that since I've been in this industry for over 5 years now, I see that there are a lot of resources available when it comes to CRO, A/B testing, and all of that, right? The ones that actually get attention are those which talk about very abstract levels of these concepts, So they talk about, hey, you need to research, do qualitative, quantitative, screen recording and all that stuff, and start running A/B test and put the button here, there, and all of that stuff. But there's a lot of thing happening in the background, right? Which somebody who is running an experiment needs to understand, right? So there are concepts like statistical significance. There are concepts like Bayesian statistics, right? Segmentation. So these are the topics which are conveniently ignored because these are hard to grab because you need they just twist your brain when you start digging deeper. So
Yeah.
it'd be great if you can talk a bit about the importance of understanding, even for a non-mathematics kind of a person, the importance of understanding what statistical significance means, right?
Yeah.
And where they can use it. I think that will be great value for the audience.
Well, I think the most important in regards to getting some messages across to your higher management or your clients that might not be familiar with this, I think it's very important to train yourself into making these metaphors where you can, because if you go the math way, you might have some people that might understand it really quick, but most of the people switching their brains from whatever they're doing in their day-to-day into this statistical mode of thinking might not be very, very quick. And even if they understand it in the first instance, if they don't think about it for another month, they'll come back and they're going to ask you again. But I found that if you switch it to a metaphor, for example, the classical example of flipping a coin with statistical significance, that you flip a coin 10 times, your brain thinks that you're going to have 50-50 chances, right? Because you have only two sides of the coin, but you might flip it 7 times heads or tails or whatever out of 10, and then the other 3 are going to be like 50-50. And then you can understand that you didn't flip the coin enough times to understand that you have statistical significance. So that example, for example, can work with people, or you can change that into whatever you think. You can find a bunch of them online, and I bet that you can find different sources, different blogs that can help you with that easily. And I think, in my experience, I found this much easier to get across and to understand why I'm not going to stop a test in about 3 days or 2 days because I saw a 10% uplift or a 10% a fall in the numbers. So I think this is very important.
Right. And at this point here, I also want to mention here, very important point here is that you need to tie the experimentation goal, the experimentation activity to a goal, right? Meaning, how to say it? So there are several tools. For example, VW, taking the example of VWO, you can paste just a snippet of code that will allow you to measure how many, whatever custom goal that you might have at the end of the experiment that you want to achieve. You need to closely track it. Else it's very futile to run experiment and get everyone involved. So I think that also you need to consider. But yeah, the other thing about the traffic these days, businesses are getting a lot of traffic on mobile, right? And then there's of course traffic on desktop. So do you think there should be a separate hypothesis for the desktop screen and mobile audience? Should there be a different measurement for pi score for both? What do you
Well,
suggest?
I think it depends a lot on the audience that you have. It depends from business to business. Yes, sometimes in B2C you might see just a different behavior and people buying online on using a mobile device versus desktop. So I think yes, in that case you might have to see. It all depends on your research, and you should start maybe with some customer interviews and give them some different scenarios with different devices in their hands, and then you can draw some conclusions and you see if there's such a big difference in the way that they behave. Yeah, go ahead and do it. For example, at Festo, because of the type of the business, most of the traffic, it comes on desktop, and mobile is mostly for information used, getting some let's say for awareness, and getting some questions answered for the user, but most of the actual research and the purchasing is done through desktop. So actually we focus a lot on desktop and a lot less on mobile. That's why I'm saying it depends on each business and on your research, but I think a good way to find out if you need to tackle them in such a different way is to do some usability research and some customer interviews and see how they actually react in different scenarios with their devices.
Right. That makes sense. And so the next question will be, when do you know? When does one know that you need to build a dedicated team for CRO? Right. Should
Yeah.
they have run a couple of experiments before by themselves, or
Yeah.
do you think that one needs to have a team at all? Like, can a single person do everything?
Well, I think it depends on the maturity of the program, of course. One thing that I think is very important to get across the whole business is that CRO should be looked at as a business as usual type of thing. It's like SEO, right? And it's not one project that is going to start today and is going to end at the end of next year or anything like that. So if we get this message across since the beginning, then you set an expectation of this is going to increase. This is going to have much more velocity, and we're going to need much more resources,
Right.
not now, but in the future. So if you get this from point A, I think this is going to help you in future discussions when you want to develop a team. But in the beginning, depending on the business, on how big the business is, and um, um, you know, how fast you can move and what resource you have, you can start with an agency. You can start with the software tool, which also has managed services, for example. You can do that. And if you're going to run like one test a month, of course you can do it by
All alone.
yourself and
Right.
another dev, or if you have the dev skills, the developer skills, yeah, you can do it on yourself. But it just depends on how fast you're going to do it, because you're going to start with one test a month or one test every 2 months or whatever, but you're going to increase when you feel the taste of testing in CRO, because it's going to make, if you do it right, you're gonna want to do more and more. So yeah, and it's going to develop your business as well, and into a matter of you're gonna need more resources. So I think
Right.
it's when velocity increases, I think then you should think about different resources. When you cannot do it on your own, start looking at maybe the software company that is providing you the testing tool. See if they have the capability of helping you in the beginning. Then maybe go to an agency, or if you're a big business and you have already resources in-house, start pulling at least a small percentage of their time into CRO. And when you develop more and more, you can start taking all the resources. So basically, you take the full time of a person, of a dev, of a designer, of an insights person, of a researcher, and you can make a small pod for CRO. It's just time. It's in steps. We have to take
Right.
one step
You
at a
need to closely
time.
also monitor. Yeah, you also need to closely monitor. Let's say you've been doing your experiments by yourself, and like, what is the response from your upper leadership? Are they really, taking all your feedback that you bring in from all the experiments that you've been running positively? If there's a positive, response from their end, I think you can think about speeding up your experimentation program, and maybe increasing them by 10%, 5%, or 20%, whatever, month on month. So that's a good indicator. So how do you, who do you include in these teams? Because I've recently seen on, I keep researching on LinkedIn. I've seen that there are roles springing up which are very, very specific to CRO. As like yourself, you're a conversion analyst. So there are several other CRO specialists now that companies are hiring. So do you go about hiring a new CRO professional, or do you pull in people from your existing teams, let's say data analyst, design, UX, dev, product management, marketing? How do you go about doing that?
Well, it depends on how strong you feel you are on strategy and your experience when you're starting the CRO program. If you think you need some help in that or a counterpart, yeah, you can start with that by hiring. But if not, and you think you're confident in building your own hypothesis, your own roadmaps, you doing at least your own research and so on, and you know how to interpret everything that you get in your hands and how to look for them, I think it's good for if you have a team inside which has developers with front end experience. I think you can start having some discussions in that area, see if they want to do this, if they want to be a part of it, if they're willing to to learn in that direction, even if they never worked in CRO before. I think it's something that can be learned, and I think there is
Right.
same with the designers, same with the insights and the analytics team and the product teams. I think there is a learning curve which may help you model your team as you want, versus that's a benefit versus hiring from the outside, because people will come with less preconceptions about what works and what doesn't, and
Right.
methodologies. That's only on the one point. If you don't have this option in your company, I don't see any other chance of not hiring from outside.
Right. That's an interesting point. Yeah. So, now that you've built a team, how do you give them the KPIs? What metrics do you assign to each of them so that they know the purpose of the of the job that they're hired for? Specifically in
Yeah.
cases where you're pulling people from different, from different departments.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think as long as you're very, very transparent with the business KPIs, and you understand where you're going to all push to get to, to the objective, I think you have to be very careful into setting very, very strict goals and KPIs, such as conversion rate or anything like that, because that can be easily I don't know, manipulated or put in different perspectives, which is not going to help the business. It's going to help the individual, and you can do that easily, and I've seen this in the past with different clients. I think it's just very, very easy to look at the business goals and then start doing work on velocity. Maybe that can be one. We can work on incremental conversions. The ROI of the program might work easily, depending if you're working in an agency with a client or not. You have multiple ways, but I think transparency and getting people on the same boat, that we're pushing for this business goal, which is not going to be only like conversion rate or anything like that, and
Mm-hmm.
pulling them together in all the meetings possible, that we're seeing how can we reach this further. You're going to have everyone in a small team closer to you, and I think it's going to be much easier with the business goal of the company can be the same for the team as well.
Agree. So yeah, that's a great point about being transparent across, because that also helps in, that's actually my next question as well. And I think you've also talked about it in, I think, second last slide or so, which is more about convincing a larger team, to adopt concept of experimentation, because we've seen a lot of conversations around building a culture of experimentation, right? But still, we face a lot of challenge because, since it is very opinion based kind of a program, right? And we all know here that, a lot of experiments that you run will eventually fail. So people would be like, hey, you ran an experiment and it failed. So what's the purpose of running it? So how do you make sure that the larger team is convinced about the idea, and they know that even a failed experiment, it fetches a lot of insight that will be helpful for the business.
I think again, showing off your first winning results have to be
Right.
there, and to be very careful to understand, to explain every time you're showing off that this can be easily turned upside down if we're not very sure that we learn out of it, and we're not doing the research correctly. So, for example, or not correctly, but we have access to doing the research and to make sure that we log in every piece of data that we get in. So I think by explaining that we're doing testing to learn and looking at learning more than making this a competition or
Right.
winning, or yes, testing and learning, we have to show, okay, this test gave us a win. Of course, we had an uplift in whatever objective and whatever goal,
Right.
but at the same time we learned um, a new hypothesis for the same test, so we iterate and we can get more out of it, or a new test, right? And as long as they understand, even if this information, this learning, we still got it, and we still open a new test, and you can win. And as long as you have a few examples of losing tests, which gives you learning opportunities of some other new tests, some other new winning tests, I think that takes the pressure off your shoulders, because you can go and you can showcase a losing test which ended up in another winning test, just because of learning what happened in
Right.
there. So I think this sequence of testing, of losing, winning, and explaining the like a story on what happens. So storytelling and testing, I think, is very important as well.
Right. The story.
Yeah, that's how you can I think you can alleviate this problems and concerns.
Agree, because I've talked to several people, from big companies like Intuit, Dell, WhatsApp,
Yeah,
Shopify, and a couple of others, wherein they started with the same thing, right? They started with just running one or two tests, showing the result, building a story around it, instead of showcasing the result. Hey, we got 26% uplift. They said, hey, we ran, we saw this problem on the website, and this was a friction that was in the journey of conversion, right? So we did a research, we built a hypothesis, and we ran a test, and we've observed that people behave in a certain manner, right?
yeah,
So this documentation of behavior is something which will get you a better understanding of who your audience is, rather than just looking at the persona table and figuring out, okay, so this person is 24 year old, works at some at some bank or something, and is interested in football. So the behavior, their interaction with your website, will tell a lot of things about them, that you can you know uh, build into the new features that we'll be launching soon. Yeah, that's great to have.
yeah,
So at this point, I'll also encourage few of attendees to ask their questions to Dragos. We'll be happy to take your questions. I observe that all of you have logged in via the GoToWebinar's web portal, which means that I won't be able to unmute you so that you can ask your question directly. But yeah, you can always send in your questions using the questions panel that is available to you in the control panel. Right. So I have just, I think, one more question, two more, but basically a part of one own question, which is, since
okay,
this is Q4 for a lot of businesses, right? The clarity in terms of budget preparation, it's there, right? So my first question is, how does one make CRO as part of their marketing budget? And the second part, of course, is more abstract, and it's more like, whose budget should CRO be a part of anyway? Should it be part of product management, marketing, or growth team altogether, right? So, it's a complicated question, I know, but any insights that you can share?
yeah. It's hard to give a straight answer into that. The thing is that again, right, depends on the business and how it's structured and how big it is, right? 'Cause some teams have product into their in their and they have it like in very small clusters and specifically designed in a way, but smaller business don't have that. So they have like marketing, and that's it pretty much. I think in either way, you should just, as I said before, you paint a picture of the potential, right? You never did this before, and you have to market it. I think you just start by doing some things with what you got, at hand, to start making like a proof of concept. At least proof of concept is not very expensive. Like you can use different tools which are mostly free or very, very cheap in the beginning as a proof of concept, to have like a very, very low hanging fruit, and to at least prove a concept. But the most important thing is just, paint that picture, and that potential that a testing or a CRO program has, and get this across the top management, to give you at least a small part of their budget for the first quarter, or for the whole year even. But I think it's in the beginning, it's the small steps that matter. And as I said, just get one or two tests out there, show the proof of concept, try to win. It's gonna, you don't have to win, but try to win, because that is going to help you in the beginning, at least for the general mindset. And then I think you're off to increasing that budget, every time there's discussion around it, by just collecting data, and as you said, documenting the journey that you've been through with your whole tests, where the budget should come from. This is to every business. I don't think there's a general answer on
Debatable.
this.
Yeah, that's debatable. At least, if even if you're not feeling, at least get the story right. So yeah, that's something that you need to consider. But at the back of my head, this question keeps coming back to me: is why is building an experimentation culture so hard, right? Because at least I see it as one of the biggest bottleneck when it comes to adopting experimentation in an organization, and it always has to flow from top to bottom. So if you have any ideas on that.
Well, it's hard, I think, because it's natural to have some. It's only like human behavior to have their opinions and to work on certain biases. That's why they're called biases, right? And they all already think that, well, if I do it, mostly other people work like me. So I think that's the first thing, and you just have to break that barrier that yourself is not the same as your users. So once you get that everybody's unique and behaves in their own way, and of course you can cluster them at some point, right? But that's the most important thing, and I think that's why it's hard. It's just human behavior and normal human behavior to just go of their first instincts and thoughts when they see not necessarily a page, because it's basically in any way, in any products or anything that we use. We all use them in certain ways, and we think that that's the best way, right? The shortest way home is the one that we know. So I think that's why it's just normal human behavior.
Right. This reminds me of one point that we were having a conversation with Lucas Vermeer of Booking.com. So he did mention that he did mention about democratization of experimentation in organization, right? Instead of just allocating the responsibility to a few, right? What if you could? And of course, Booking.com and Google and Facebook and Amazon, of course, it's very popular for that. They democratize experimentation. They just let everyone to run whatever experiments they want to, right?
Yes.
So they are convinced about the idea. Plus, they also get better in understanding the customers, the visitors that they are building for. So that builds a really strong connection between the business and their target audience. So yeah, I really liked about it, and this is something that we follow at VW as well. We've given the liberty to everyone to to create their tests and deploy them on the go. So we've seen a lot of involvement from people across the company. So that's one way, of course.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and I think that you can give access to as long as you you share your knowledge and you share your results, and you let people know every time you do that you can do this as well. Yeah, just build your hypothesis, ask for the data from the right teams, and you give everybody access to the log of the hypothesis that you have, and they would understand, because everybody in their department wants their idea to be the first one tested, right? But as long as they understand that the process of research and multiple data sources that come into a hypothesis impact this this prioritization, as long as they understand this, I think if it depends on how much they want to actually get that new feature, or that change on their page tested. So I think this is a way that being transparent with the process makes people try it and join it. And when one of them, which is out of the CRO team or the analytics team, wins a test and gets there, I think from there the job becomes much easier. But I think the first hurdle is that one, to make other people outside of your department try and test and do their research, and helping them and asking for help in their research.
Right, and that's when they will spread the message about the importance of it.
They'll be very excited.
That's great.
Yeah,
indeed. So at this point, I'll launch a poll for everyone in the audience today. It's in German, and if you like this conversation, and if you're willing to know more about what VWO does, what we're all about, I'll be launching a poll right now, and just let us know, and we'll get you connected with someone in the team who would help you explain in a more personalized manner about the VWO platform.
great.
I hope because of the messaging, you're able to. Sorry?
No, I was telling to people to get on the poll, because they have to check under the hood and to explore new options of testing tools. So yeah, it's very important. And me in the past, at least, I had very good experiences with VWO, so can recommend it.
That fills me with joy. That fills me with joy to hear that from you, Dragos. Yeah, so with that, I think we are at the end of this insightful session. Thank you so much, Dragos, for taking out the time and sharing your knowledge with our audience today. Of course, we'll be sending out the recording to everyone who wasn't able to make it to the session today, and of course, they'll find value. I'm absolutely sure. Thank you so much, and have a great day, Dragos.
No worries. Thank you, Vipul. Thank you very much for your time as well. And yeah, I hope this had been helpful for everyone. And then yeah, hope to see you soon.
Sure, and please feel free to connect with Dragos on LinkedIn. He's there, Dragos Pop from Fiesta. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.